You are now 1,500 absolute legends who subscribe to the channel, and we have to celebrate some way, so I decided I would make a coaster where every single foot represents one of my subscribers. That sounded extremely weird coming out of my European mouth, not gonna lie. Whew, whatever, let's roll with it. Today we're making a 1,500 foot long MACK launch coaster to celebrate all of you, and it looks something like this. Alright, enough cool cinematics. Let's make this coaster. When I start to make a coaster, I usually try to come up with a color scheme and a concept. Our coaster's name is gonna be Velocity, and I wanted to have this sleek black and white futuristic look during the day so that we can make it look crazy good with lighting at night. And yes, don't forget about our operator too. Very important detail, the ride wouldn't work without him. Just before I start the layout, I wanted to shorten the station and make our train 3 cars long because it will be a compact layout that would look wrong if a longer train were to navigate it. I want to begin our ride with a helix to bring us to the launch section that will start underneath the station. That looks a bit rough, but having built this with banking offset set to 1 and 4 meter pieces, yes, PS5 players do not have shorter pieces, I can make it a whole lot smoother by smoothing these 3 by 3. Once that's done, I put a straight piece of track to let the train roll into the launch on even ground and do a 45 miles per hour launch with a speed hill to maximize airtime despite our length constraint. It looks like the train enters a cannon that propels it right away. It feels so cool. It shoots into a non-inverting Immelman followed by a really intense helix ending with a head chopper interaction with the track of the previous element. Once again, our track looks super rough at first, so when you build a coaster, always trust in your process because chances are it will feel butter smooth once you smooth it all, and if not, just do a save of your previous unsmoothed version so you can modify it ever so slightly before smoothing it again. Now, just to go a bit faster, let's omit the smoothing part of the work with the next few elements. I wanted a sort of Voltron, whippy overbank thingy with this one. What a great name for that element, don't you think? With this, we're already more than halfway through the amount of track we can use, so I need to think about wrapping this up. First, let's balance that layout with an inversion, more specifically a 0G roll. Oh, that shot right there is so satisfying. I wanted to have an outer bank 0G winder like Taiga at Lean and Mackie, because MACK have started to make some funky moves of that nature with Hyperia. Imagine going through that in real life. Now, I'm satisfied with what I have so far, but we have to make the ride lengthier to arrive at 1.5k feet, so I start making whippy turns and the beginning of an airtime hill. Before I continue the rest of the layout, I have to make a brake run and the beginning of a transfer track for our coaster to get back to the station at a slower pace, and now I can start to think about reaching the brakes. For that, I finished the floater airtime hill and end the ride with a cheetah hunt style maneuver that ends up rising to our brake run. That's our coaster done. The sum of the pieces I've used brings us to the exact meter equivalent of 1.5k feet, which is 457 meters, but somehow the in-game results show me that it's 508 meters long? The game must be drunk, it always seems to be fair, so I'm just gonna stick with my more accurate measurements, thank you very much. With the layout done, it's time to build some custom supports, but first let's make sure that we can have the artificial water feature I want under the majority of our layout. To do that, we simply need to hide the terrain and its rough edges with firehouse roof pieces and temple blocks that look like concrete. And while we're building with these pieces, let's also build a little trench under our launch. It's the start of a little something we'll make together later. But for now, satisfying custom supporting montage! Emotional support not provided. Whoa, so satisfying. Isn't it just fascinating to see this build come to life? Why am I even asking you? I'm just talking to myself right now. I hate rhetorical questions, they make no sense. Building this on a PS5 means that I don't have access to really accurate MACK TMTK pieces, but that doesn't mean I have to give up on being as accurate as possible. I've developed my own MACK connectors by simply using a triangle basic shape and a classic connector, And I've also made a custom spine using track connectors and square looking flanges on some of the elements where there's a lot of stress on the track because we don't have mods to change the trains of the in-game copyright strike model, which for some reason is the only one of the two MACK inspired models that has the option to have a spine. That's okay, when you can't have it, make it. There aren't any problems, only solutions waiting to be invented. I also extended the trench into what we could turn into a nice little garden for our helix in the very near future, because helices deserve this amount of love and care. The custom supporting being fully done, we can focus on something I've been looking forward to the most: lighting the track. Now, I don't know if MACK ever put lights in their track, but I know it's possible because Gerstlauer's been doing it for years, and we even see screens on track nowadays with that kitty flash coaster I forgot the name of at a Six Flags park. So it's definitely realistic to assume that MACK could do it if they wanted to or were asked to, and I sure asked them to. I have placed 99 box lights in the track, which was the easy part. But just having static lighting wouldn't make this a Jan BK project, so we're gonna go super hard with that lighting. You guys are not ready for what comes next. Before we work on the trigger sequences for that though, I need to decorate the launch a little bit because it is part of our light show. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I love how this part of the ride looks like the train enters the cannon, so that's exactly what we're gonna build, a futuristic rail cannon. For that, I chose to do these 3 circles that have animated lit panels in them to simulate the car being powered by some sort of pink energy. And speaking of pink energy, look. This is what our vehicle will radiate. The effect rocks, right? It looks like the train has actual lighting under it. For that, I had to synchronize over 200 different triggers with the movement of our train so that the rails would turn pink and back to blue at the precise moments we need them to. On top of that, I added a reverse animation for when the train hits the brakes so that the pink energy goes back to the station to power the next train, kind of like the catch car of a hydraulic launch, essentially. While working on the launch, I also started working on the velocity sign using my DCC font, which PlayStation players can find on my workshop page, and the very early beginnings of a station. Let's work on both of these so that we have something that's architecturally sound and pleasing, as well as work on the finishing touches of this project. There you go. Much better than before, right? Gotta say, if you want to go for a style that is very simple and flexible to build with, modern eco-brutalism is the way to go because you can do whatever you want with the temple blocks from the adventure pack. Now, in this last update, I've done tons. And by tons, I mean literally everything that was left to do. First of all, I added 2-meter glass barriers on the edges of our artificial lake. Unfortunately, this does mean that reckless children won't be able to break their legs in the shallow water anymore, which does take away some of the fun, I admit. Then I turned what was in front of our sign next to the launch into a plaza for people to look at the train's launch into the Yitmolmen. Yes, that's what I've called our Immelman because his mama told him it was special. It's me. I'm the mama. I've also created another plaza in front of the entrance and the exit. Speaking of the entrance, I've made a choice for this creation. Since Velocity is a standalone build to celebrate my 1.5k subs, I decided it would not be usable by guests, helping me to make a more realistic queue line than what I would have had to do if I would have had to weave the pathing in there. The queue is honestly my favorite part of this whole build because that's when I started to see it all come together. All of the views that I had planned for this build worked splendidly if I do say so myself. The first mini cattle pen has a view on the helix going into the launch, the second one has a beautiful view on the roll, then the more elongated cattle pen was made to utilize the structure for the transfer track, which provides shade to as many people as possible, and the final cattle pen has an amazing view on the launch, the Immelman, and the overbanked Voltron thingy. I still haven't found a better name for it. Then, once you go past one of our green walls, you go back under the transfer track and take the stairs to the station. Our station is rather simple. Numbers on the floor, bag storage, door to the maintenance bay, and simple decorations. No need to go over the top of it because the real charm of the station is seen from the outside. Green walls, aircon units and solar panels on the roof, the transfer track with its garage door, and of course the launch tunnel under the station with its own door for maintenance, power box, and cooler for the power related things that are hidden inside. Once all of that was in place, we needed a final touch of greenery around our structures that are very black and gray. Palms and exotic foliage did the trick in custom planters, and to make them stand out more, they're all lit with pink and green lighting, which makes them the final piece of the puzzle for our beautiful Velocity. And voila! Let me know what you think about Velocity, my 1,500 foot long coaster in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, otherwise you're gonna miss the rest of my Planet Coaster creations. For example, did you know that I just started a new series with a steampunk area for a park called Marvelous Realms, which is my final Planet Coaster park? No? Then here's something you can watch. Thank you for being 1,500 absolute legends. Well, 1,629 at the time of recording this, and now that I've built a 1,500 foot long MACK launch coaster, there's one question left to ask. Can you? Let me know on my Discord server with the link in the description. This has been Yan, and I'll see you in the next one.